Welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to be exploring this gold mine of information that is Australia's open government data.
And we've got some really fascinating sources to dig into.
We do, like reports from ACL Tasman and Deloitte Access Economics.
Oh, yeah, some great research papers in there.
And even some government strategy documents.
Oh, definitely. Things like SCS accountabilities for data. That one really lays out how those senior public servants are responsible for managing and sharing this valuable resource.
It's interesting because you always hear about government data in the context of, like, transparency.
Right.
And accountability.
Yeah.
But the real story here is about the economic potential. Like, how can we turn this data into something that benefits you, the Australian public?
Yeah, it's like having a treasure chest full of gems, but not knowing how to use them.
Right, exactly.
And that's what we're trying to unlock here, how to make this raw data into something that benefits everyone.
So think about it like this: raw government data is a public good.
Absolutely. It's non-rivalrous, meaning your use of the data doesn't prevent anyone else from using it.
Right.
And it's non-excludable. So once it's out there, it's hard to restrict access, and this makes a strong economic case for making this data easily accessible.
So we're talking about things like weather observations, economic indicators, all
Sure.
this sort of information that the government collects.
Right.
But how do you actually put like a dollar value on something that's essentially free?
You're right. It's not a simple calculation.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it?
Yeah, but there are a couple of approaches. You can use the top-down method, where you look at the resources used to generate the data.
Okay.
Or you can look at it from the bottom up, where you measure the actual impact on the economy.
Okay.
Studies often use a combination of the two to get a more complete picture.
So, like, what kind of numbers are we talking about here? Is this something worth getting excited about?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
McKinsey Global Institute, they've estimated that open data could unlock a staggering $4 trillion globally per year.
$4 trillion. Okay. Now you've got my attention.
Yeah.
But what about Australia specifically?
Well, Lateral Economics Research, they suggest that open data in Australia is already worth up to $25 billion annually.
Wow.
And that's over 1.5% of our GDP.
That is huge. So why are governments so keen to share this data? Because it can't be just out of the goodness of their hearts, right? There has to be some strategic reason behind it.
You're right to be skeptical.
Yeah.
I think while there's certainly an element of, public service involved, the primary motivator here is economic growth. When you have businesses, researchers, everyday Australians with access to this data, they can use it to innovate, to create new products and services, even entire industries. It's about unlocking potential and driving the economy forward.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the big picture here.
Yeah.
But can you give me some real-world examples of how this data sharing has actually worked, specifically in Australia, and how it's actually led to economic benefits?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the most compelling examples comes from the resources sector. ACL Tasman did some research on the impact of open geoscience data from Geoscience Australia. And they found that this readily available data actually led to a significant increase in private sector investment in offshore petroleum exploration.
So companies were able to use this government data to make better decisions about where to drill.
Exactly. And the result, billions of dollars in added value for the Australian economy. It's a prime example of how open data can translate into real economic growth.
That's impressive. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around, like, the different types of data we're talking about here.
Right.
Is it all just like raw numbers and statistics, or is there more to it?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. There's a whole spectrum of data types. At the most basic level, you have raw data, things like weather observations collected during normal government operations.
Okay.
That type of data is a true public good. Should be made available at the lowest possible cost.
So if it costs the government like $1 to store and share that data, they should charge $1.
That's the basic principle, yeah.
Okay.
But then you have what we call value-added data. This is data that's been processed or analyzed. It provides additional insights. So think about things like weather forecasts.
Okay.
They're based on that raw weather data, but they provide a more refined and useful output. In these cases, the government might charge a bit more to recover the costs of processing and analysis.
That makes sense. And then there's the more commercially sensitive data, right?
Right.
The kind of data that private companies might be interested in selling.
Right. And that's where things get a bit trickier. It raises questions about competition, the role of government in the data market. Should the government be competing with private companies by providing data that could be sold commercially? Or should they focus on making public goods freely available and leaving the commercial data to the private sector?
Right.
There's no easy answer. It's something that policymakers are grappling with right now.
It's a bit of a balancing act, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
But surely there are some fun and interesting examples of how this open data is being used beyond these like serious economic applications.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The UK has a fantastic website. It's called Where Does My Money Go? It uses open data to let citizens see exactly how the government is spending their tax dollars.
Wow. That's pretty cool. It's like a peek behind the curtain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while it might not be directly driving economic growth, it does build trust and transparency.
Yeah.
And those are essential for a healthy economy.
Okay, so we've established that open data can be this powerful engine for economic growth.
Right.
But who's responsible for making sure that engine is running smoothly here in Australia?
That's a great question. And it brings us to the critical role of leadership within the Australian Public Service, specifically senior executive service officers. They're the leaders within the public service, and their commitment is absolutely crucial.
You've mentioned a few times now this incredible potential, right?
Right.
That open data has. Like McKinsey's $4 trillion global market figure.
Yeah.
But is Australia really doing enough to grab its share?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? Or maybe $1 trillion question.
Yeah.
We have, the raw materials, the data itself, and we've got the infrastructure in place. Things like data.gov.au.
Right.
Which is a fantastic platform, but are we truly maximizing this incredible resource?
Yeah, good question.
I think there's still room for improvement.
So what's holding us back? Why isn't Australia leading the pack in this whole open data revolution?
One key challenge has been the lack of a consistent effort to measure the actual cost of collecting, managing, and releasing this data.
Okay.
It's hard to make the case for continued investment if you can't show that the benefits outweigh the costs.
It's like trying to convince someone to invest in a gold mine, but you can't tell them how much it costs to actually extract the gold.
Exactly.
Right. It's a hard sell.
Exactly. And then there's the cultural barriers as well. Some agencies are still hesitant, to fully embrace open data. They might be worried about privacy,
right,
security,
yeah,
or even just the perceived risk of making mistakes publicly.
It's a big shift in mindset, right?
Right. For sure. But I think the benefits outweigh the risks. Look at the U.S. Blue Button Initiative. They provide easy access to personal health records,
yeah,
empowering citizens to manage their own health data. And that can lead to, better healthcare outcomes, more efficient service delivery.
It makes a lot of sense. Have we seen anything similar happening in Australia? Are there any projects here that really highlight this potential?
Absolutely. Deloitte Access Economics was involved in developing an open data platform that's focused on natural disaster resilience.
Okay.
And they found that by centralizing data on things like weather patterns, infrastructure, population density, you can equip communities to be more resilient,
okay,
more prepared for disasters.
I can see how that would be incredibly useful, especially in a country like Australia that's so prone to natural disasters.
Right. And it goes beyond just responding to disasters, too. That kind of data can help us make informed decisions about urban planning, investing in infrastructure, even mitigating the effects of climate change. It really touches every aspect of our lives.
So we're talking about like economic benefits, increased efficiency,
yeah,
even improving public safety.
Right.
It's pretty remarkable when you think about it, all from just making data more accessible.
Right. And we haven't even touched on the potential for driving innovation. Think back to when the U.S. government opened up GPS data.
Right.
It completely revolutionized navigation technology, created tons of jobs, spawned countless new businesses. Imagine what could happen if we unleash that that same creative energy here in Australia by providing easier access to government data.
It's almost like handing businesses and entrepreneurs a toolkit and saying, go build something amazing.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And that's what's so exciting about this field. It's about creating opportunities, fostering innovation, and ultimately build a better future for Australia.
We talked a lot about the potential benefits and even touched on some of the cultural and logistical hurdles.
Right.
But what about the perspective from businesses themselves? What are they saying about the state of open data in Australia?
Well, the Department of Communications actually did a fascinating study. It was called Open Data 500 Australia, where they surveyed companies actually using government data.
Okay, tell me more about that. What did they learn? Are Australian businesses just as enthusiastic about open data as we are?
The study revealed some interesting insights. There's definitely an awareness of the potential.
Okay.
But there's also a sense of frustration. Some businesses actually feel that the current approach to providing data is actually hindering innovation.
Oh, really?
Not helping it.
Can you give me an example of what you mean?
Sure. One concern that was raised in the study was relates to ASIC's approach to data sharing.
Okay.
Often you only see the title of the document.
Right.
And you have to pay to see the content. Yeah. It's a pay-per-view model.
So you don't even know what you're buying until you've already paid for it.
Exactly.
That sounds pretty inefficient.
It is. It creates this information imbalance.
Right.
Where the data holders have all the power.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard for businesses to properly assess the value before they commit to a purchase.
Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a barrier to entry for smaller businesses, especially.
Right.
Especially those trying to do something innovative.
Right. And now let's talk about a big player in the data world, Google. They participated in the study, offered some really insightful perspectives.
I'm curious to hear what they had to say. Yeah. Google relies on data for so much of what they do.
Yeah, they emphasize the importance of data licensing,
okay,
which is a crucial but often overlooked aspect of open data.
Right.
Currently, a lot of government data is released under what are called Creative Commons attribution licenses.
Okay. Meaning
anyone who uses the data has to credit the source.
Okay. That seems fair enough. Give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, and in most cases it is. But it can create complications for companies like Google that want to integrate data into complex products or services.
I can see how attribution can get tricky if you're using multiple data sets and building something entirely new.
Exactly. And another important point that Google raised was the need for better data coordination during emergencies.
You mean things like natural disasters?
Exactly. They cited an example from the Black Saturday bushfires.
Okay.
Where they actually offered to help provide real-time bushfire information through Google Maps. But they ran into copyright issues.
Oh, wow.
Trying to get access to data from the Country Fire Authority.
So even in a critical situation like that, there can be bureaucratic roadblocks.
Right.
To accessing and using this data.
It certainly highlights the need for more flexible policies, procedures that allow for rapid data sharing, particularly during those emergency situations.
Yeah, it seems like there needs to be a cultural shift within the Australian Public Service.
Right.
A move away from this default position of secrecy towards a more open and collaborative approach.
I agree. It's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
We're seeing some positive steps, things like data.gov.au, the Open Data 500 study, but there's still work to be done, and a crucial piece of that is the role of senior executive service officers,
right,
in championing open data within their agencies. We were talking about that a bit earlier, how important that leadership is.
So it's not enough to just have the policies and the platforms in place. You need people within the APS who are truly passionate about this open data thing, who really get its potential and are ready to champion it.
That's it, yeah. It can't just be the responsibility of some chief data officer tucked away in a back office. This data-driven culture needs to be embedded at all levels.
And it sounds like that's starting to happen. You mentioned earlier that the Australian government has actually developed this framework.
Yeah.
That outlines specific accountabilities for SES officers when it comes to data.
Right.
Can you break that down for me? What exactly are they accountable for?
Well, first and foremost, each agency is now expected to have a data strategy. This outlines how they plan to use data to achieve their goals and deliver better services.
So it's not just about collecting data for the sake of it. It's about strategically using it to get real results, right?
Exactly. And to make sure this happens, each agency should have a chief data officer, usually at that SES level, who's responsible for data across the entire agency.
That makes sense. Someone needs to be steering the ship, so to speak.
Yeah.
But what about those SES officers who aren't directly involved in data management? So, like, if you're in charge of HR or policy development, do you still have a responsibility to be a data champion?
Absolutely. That's where it gets really interesting. The framework makes it clear that all SES officers actually have data accountabilities.
Right.
They're expected to support their agency's data strategy, promote that data-driven culture within their teams.
So even if your primary focus isn't on data, you still need to be aware of its potential,
right,
and how it can be used to improve the work that you do.
That's the idea. It's about recognizing that data is a valuable asset that can benefit everyone across the agency, not just the IT department. It's a whole of government approach.
We spent a lot of time today talking about the economic benefits of open data, but
yeah,
it's also important to acknowledge that there are broader societal implications as well.
Of course, and we need to make sure that that open data is used responsibly and ethically.
Right.
You know, privacy and security are paramount.
Yeah.
And we also need to be mindful of potential bias in data sets,
right,
which can perpetuate inequalities if we're not careful.
So it's about striking a balance.
Yeah.
Being open and innovative,
right,
but also safeguarding privacy and ensuring fairness. It's a complex challenge for sure.
It is, but it's a challenge worth tackling. The potential benefits are enormous, and I'm confident that Australia can become a global leader in the responsible and effective use of open data.
This has been an incredibly fascinating deep dive. What's the one key message you want our listeners to take away from our conversation today?
I think the main takeaway is that open government data is much more than just numbers on a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
it's a powerful tool that can be used to drive economic growth, improve government services, empower citizens,
right,
to make informed decisions. But to realize this potential, we need that shift in mindset. You know, within the Australian Public Service, move towards a more data-driven culture, prioritize openness, collaboration, a commitment to using data responsibly.
It's about recognizing that data can be a force for good, a way to make Australia a more innovative, prosperous, and equitable nation.
Exactly. It's an exciting journey, and it's one that we're all on together.
Well said. And on that note, it's a wrap for today's deep dive. We hope you enjoyed exploring the world of open government data with us. We encourage you to check out the resources that we mentioned in this episode, and most importantly, start thinking about how you can use this information to make a difference in your own world. Thanks for listening.